Yeah, all the best. Start.
Good morning, sir. A very good. A very good morning to one and all present here. Respected resource person, Dr. G.B. Reddy, sir, Professor of Law, Osmania University, Hyderabad. Respected Principal, SSMRV College, Dr. S. Anil Kumar, sir. Respected Head of Department and IQAC Coordinator, Dr. M.S. Nagaraj, sir. Respected Dinesh, sir. Respected Senior Advocate, Harish, sir. HOD Department of BBA and BCA, participants from various colleges, my dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to all of you for a two-day national level seminar on the role of IPR in present economic scenario, prospects and challenges in association with National Assessment and Accreditation Council. Yesterday, Dr. B.S. Ponmudiraj, advisor NAC, inaugurated the online seminar, followed by Dr. Srinivasulu, Professor NUJS Kolkata, addressed the virtual gathering on the topic patents and copyright. Today, we have an eminent personality with us, Dr. G.B. Reddy, Professor of Law, Osmania University, Hyderabad. A warm welcome to you, sir. I now request Mrs. Rupalata, Assistant Professor from the Department of Commerce, to introduce our resource person to the virtual gathering. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ajay sir. A very good morning to you all. I am Rupalata, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, Coordinator of Final Year BCom. I am so pleased to be with you today to have the chance to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. G.B. Reddy Garu. Dr. G.B. Reddy sir is a lawyer turned academician. Sir has studied BA, LLB, LLM at Usmania University, and his area of specialization is constitutional law. And he had done PG diploma in human rights from the University of Hyderabad, and he obtained PhD in law from Usmania University in 1999 on the topic Supreme Court and Judicial Activism, its contribution in specific areas of constitutional law after 1980. Sir is specialized in the area of intellectual property as an independent researcher, publisher, and teacher, and has had a brilliant academic record with 3 gold medals in LLB and 1 gold medal in LLM. Sir is the first candidate to have qualified for UGC GRF in law from Usmania University in 1993. He practiced in the High Court of Andhra Pradesh for about 7 years before joining the Faculty of Law, Usmania University. Sir has authored 20 books on law, including Women and Law, Intellectual Property Rights and Law, Copyright Law in India, Practical Advocacy of Law, Right to Information and Law, and Judicial Activism in India. He also published 56 articles in law in standard national and international journals. He worked as a principal, University College of Law, and head Department of Law, Usmania University, Hyderabad. He has been a visiting faculty at several reputed institutions, including AP Judicial Academy, AP Excise Academy, CCRT, NARM, AP Police Academy, National Police Academy, Nalsar University of Law and ICARDR, National Industrial Security Academy, Academic Staff Colleges of Usmania University, Acharya Nagarjuna University, Bangalore University, VIT University, IIT Kanpur, and University of Hyderabad, and was the co-convener of AP LawSet and PG LawSet for 2014-15. At present, Sir is the chairperson, Board of Studies in Law, Usmania University, and he had participated in several national, international seminars, workshops, and conferences, and presented papers in Japan, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Singapore, and South Korea. He is non-official visitor to Cherlapalli Central Jail, member Telangana State Legal Service Authority, Chairman Ethics Committee of CDFT Hyderabad, and member Academic Council of Nalsar University. Thank you, sir. Over to you, Ajay, sir.
Thank you, Ruplata ma'am. On behalf of SSMRV College and all the participants, we would like to welcome Dr. GB Reddy, sir. So over to you, sir.
Yeah, I think I'm audible now.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah. A very good morning to all the learned colleagues and faculty members of Sivananda Sharma Memorial RV College and the participants, delegates, students, and other friends. A special good morning to Professor Srinivaslu, yesterday's resource person, Dr. Nagaraj, Dr. Anil Kumar, Dr. Gokul, and many more friends. I don't remember all the names, please. Therefore, I may be excused. Well, it's already late. I crave your indulgence for the delay of about 10 minutes because of the traffic jam or whatever. I was caught somewhere between my residence and the university. But I'll try to make it up. And I'm very happy to participate in this two-day national level online seminar on the role of intellectual property rights in the present economic scenario, the prospects as well as challenges. And I had an occasion to listen to yesterday's chief guest, Dr. B.S. Onmudi Raj, and also Dr. Srinivaslu. They have set a wonderful tone to the present seminar, which is of contemporary relevance. And probably this is the more opportune time to discuss about the economic scenario and the prospects and challenges in the context of intellectual property rights. And you know very well that today we are living in the knowledge century of knowledge revolution. And you know that, in fact, for the last 4 or 5 centuries, the centuries are changing. If 16th century was considered as the, the century. 17th century was the century of scientific revolution. 18th was the century of political revolution. 19th has been the century of the industrial revolution. And the 20th, the last century, has been the century of the information revolution. And today we are in the century of knowledge revolution. Therefore, everything is revolving around the knowledge. And as pointed out by yesterday's resource person, knowledge is not only power, but it has also become the property. Today, the knowledge is the property, and it can be commodified, converted into a tradable commodity, either in the form of goods or services. This point is known to all of you. Nonetheless, I am aware of the fact that most of the students, maybe all the students, belong to the commerce stream. And therefore, if I include more and more legal aspects, it would be, in fact, not serving any purpose. This is one important aspect. So, be that as it may, when we deal with the two topics given to me, that is the trademarks and the designs in India, I must take you to a wonderful quotation of Lester C. Thoreau, an economist, who made this statement way back in 1997 in a celebrated article published in Harvard Business Review. And he says that for more than a century, world's wealthiest human being has been associated with oil. Now he is a knowledge worker. He was referring to Bill Gates when he became the richest person in the world at that time. And of course, he remains one of the wealthiest persons among the top 10, according to Forbes, even today. But what is important is that the knowledge was the main contributor for creation of the wealth. And this has been proved any number of times, even in modern times. Then, second one is, again, a quotation made by Albert Einstein, the celebrated scientist, who says that imagination is more important than knowledge. And in fact, today, when you are talking about the startups, our number of innovations which are coming up, what is behind them is not only knowledge, but also the imagination. This is important. Also, the imagination. And imagination is always, considered to be the, in fact, driving force behind any new intellectual creation. This is another important aspect which I think we need to remember. So, be that as it may, I would like to draw your attention to yet another very relevant statement made in the National Intellectual Property Policy. Yesterday, Dr. Ponmudi Raj was mentioning about the new education policy. Now that new education policy must be correlated to the National Intellectual Property Policy of 2016, and where it was stated that we are aiming at an India where creativity and innovation are stimulated by intellectual property for the benefit of all, not for the industries alone. Then in India where intellectual property promotes advancement in science and technology, that is one aspect. Arts and culture, traditional knowledge and biodiversity resources. And again they say that knowledge should become the main driver of development. So without knowledge, there can't be any development. And last point is that knowledge owned must be transformed into the knowledge shared. Knowledge owned must be shared. That is the vision statement of the National Intellectual Property Policy. I'm very happy that SSMRV College is doing exactly the same thing. They are trying to share the knowledge, maybe which will lead to creation of more knowledge in the form of intellectual property. Then I would like to quote the Honorable Prime Minister of India, who made a wonderful statement in the form of a slogan, in fact, in Bangalore itself, incidentally, on the occasion of the 107th Indian Science Congress, which took place in January this year. And he says, innovate, patent, produce, and prosper. Innovate, patent, produce, and prosper. What a wonderful statement it is. Therefore, intellectual property, whatever may be its form, becomes a very important tool as far as the prosperity is concerned, economic prosperity is concerned, even the free flow of trade and increase in the GDP, whatever it is, ultimately intellectual property can do a lot. And today we are living in the age of COVID-19. People are really worried about their health. But you also look at the fantastic contributions being made in the field of science and technology, how the vaccine development is taking place, how the experiments are taking place. And in such a scenario, sometimes intellectual property takes a backseat also. That's another important point. Anyway, now what is intellectual property? Probably, it is too late to be discussed. I know that because much water has flown down the Ganges since yesterday. But I'll just make only few observations, one or two observations, not many. One is we are talking about intangible property, which is not visible, which is not having any physical shape or form, right? Which may be in the form of only some kind of information. Intellectual property is an information. Intellectual property is protected if it is technological information by way of patents. Yesterday you must have discussed. If it is expressive information, it is protected by way of copyright. Yesterday you have discussed. If it is symbolic information, it is protected by way of trademarks. Today we are going to discuss. If it is some kind of ornamental information or decorative information, then it is going to be protected by way of industrial designs. Today we are going to discuss the creation of the intellectual faculties, the creation of mental labor. Yesterday, Dr. Srinivaslu also mentioned about it, is the cause of creation of intellectual property. The intellectual activity may take place in any field. No doubt, there has been undue focus, maybe disproportionate focus, mostly on the patents and copyrights. But it doesn't mean that the other forms of intellectual property don't contribute to the individual as well as the national development. They have their own importance and significance. This is one important aspect. And intellectual property is transnational in character. This point also I think we need to revisit. Just because we are in India and Nike is not an Indian company, we can't apply the trademark Nike to any of the goods or services which are produced and offered in India. As simple as that, because it has something called transnational reputation, transboundary reputation. The reputation goes across, goes beyond the boundaries, national boundaries. Therefore, intellectual property needs to be protected. It needs to be protected not only at the national level, but also at the international level. And another important aspect is that as far as the general understanding of intellectual property is concerned, it has only limited shelf life. It has only limited shelf life. Means it has a shelf life of a banana. We have only 10 years, maybe 15 years, maybe maximum 20 years in the case of patents, within which period the stakeholders who are given these intellectual property rights, either in the form of designs or patents, etc., they must exploit these intellectual property rights commercially to recover their investment, to make reasonable profits. Because once the monopoly, the exclusive status which is given by the law and the mechanism expires, once it comes into public domain, nothing remains. It belongs to everyone. It doesn't belong to only the stakeholder. But to this general rule, we have an exception in the form of at least two kinds of intellectual property. First one is trademark. The second one is geographical indications of goods. There is no shelf life for them. There is no shelf life. In fact, they will remain in private domain as long as the stakeholders want to keep them, subject to certain conditions. So that is the uniqueness of trademarks, which we are going to discussed today. Of course, design protection is something else, and that needs to be looked at from a different perspective, right? When you look at the evolution of intellectual property rights, one can refer even to Mruta Sanjeevani of yesteryears, Hindu epics. Please try to understand that Mruta Sanjeevani mantra or potion or invention, which was made by Shukracharya, the guru of Rakshasas, at the time of the churning of the ocean, Samudra Mathanam, right? Kshira Sagara Mathanam. That's what we say in Hindu mythology. The ocean of milk was churned. At that time, again, the Rakshasas, the gods, again, they started fighting. And during the fight, this Mruta Sanjeevani was applied by Shukracharya. And that is different story. But that was also intellectual property. Bible talks about a statement, thou shall not steal. Thou shall not steal. This is the basis of copyright protection in modern times today. So history is very old, right? And probably we go back to 6th to 7th and centuries and even much beyond them. But intellectual property has come into prominence mostly after the advent of industrial revolution in the 19th century. And that is when we come across number of efforts made at international level, not at the national level, at international level, to protect the patents, the trademarks, or the other forms of industrial property, and also the copyright, right? Then slowly and gradually, when we come to the 20th century, we come across the establishment of something called World Intellectual Property Organization in 1967. In 1972, it became part of United Nations. Then when we come to 1990s, we come across the evolution of the TRIPS. That is one of the trade agreements under WTO. WTO and TRIPS, they came together. Trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights. Agreement on trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights. Point is very simple. Whether it is the multinational corporations or the developed countries, they were not very happy with the equal status enjoyed by all the countries or the corporations from all the countries, whether developed, developing, and least developed. They wanted to have their own final say. So ultimately, maybe one of the instruments or methods has been the TRIPS agreement. So that gives them an edge over the developing and least developed countries. I'm not on international relations, dear students. What I'm trying to mention is that 1994 is a triggering point to treat intellectual property as a tradable commodity. So intellectual property has become the subject matter of international trade agreements, then bilateral trade agreements, multilateral trade agreement like the MTO or the WTO, right? And ultimately, the way we looked at intellectual property all these years, it has changed. Today, everything is intellectual property. When we look at ourselves right from top to bottom, there is something related to intellectual property. You have a trademark on your pen, a trademark on your shoes, then you are using a phone which is probably reflecting nearly 5 to 6 different kinds of intellectual property. Look at your cell phone. The cell phone, the design is protected by way of industrial design. The ringtone is protected by way of copyright. The technology is protected by way of, let us say, patent. The chip is protected by way of layout design, right? So you are coming across nearly 4 different kinds of intellectual property in one cell phone. Its appearance, its design, its technology, its ringtone, set of instructions, even the semiconductor and integrated designs, protection within itself. Therefore, we can't do away with the intellectual property, and it is necessary that everyone. And another point also, yesterday I heard the recording for some time, and I am reiterating the same. Intellectual property is not the exclusive domain of the lawyers, judges, or only chartered accountants. Gone are those days now. Scientists can't claim exclusive stakes in the intellectual property rights. So are the engineers, so are the technocrats. Everyone is concerned with intellectual property, irrespective of the field, where it is created, how it is created, whether the person is a technocrat or coming from a non-technological background, whether a person is having science background or without science background, all of them are concerned. So a small trader is concerned with intellectual property, then a multinational corporation also is concerned about the intellectual property. Their reach, extent, and scope may vary. We are talking about an interdisciplinary subject, multidisciplinary subject, which touches upon everyone, including the farmers. Today, the farmers are agitating in Delhi, elsewhere, protesting against the three farm laws. I wish that similar protests were witnessed when Plant Varieties Protection Law was made sometime in the year 2001. There are certain provisions even in the Plant Varieties Protection Act which might hurt the interest of the farmers and agriculturists. There also intellectual property is involved. New plant varieties is a kind of intellectual property. That is one important aspect. Then we have two major classes of intellectual property rights. And incidentally, yesterday, one important form of intellectual property from each of these two major classes was discussed. Patents from industrial property class and copyright from literary property class, which was discussed very well by Professor Srinivas. But you should know what is industrial property in the context of intellectual property. We're talking about a property which can be used in the industry, which is capable of being used in the industry, or which can be produced by the industry. So use and produce, these two are important. If you can apply them industrially, if they have industrial application, but they are creatures of human mind, then you must say that that is industrial property. It encompasses patents, trademarks, industrial designs, and GIs, geographical indications of goods. In fact, my duty today is to discuss briefly, to explain the importance of two such forms of industrial property, namely the trademarks and industrial designs. The remaining is literary property, where copyright is the predominant form. Then we have the new forms of intellectual property. Just now I mentioned about the new plant varieties, then again life forms, genetic resources and traditional knowledge, maybe layout designs, business methods, computer programs, so on and so forth. This is one important aspect. Then, as I already mentioned, some intellectual property rights. Please try to understand that intellectual property is in the form of rights. That is the reason why you don't find any tangible form of intellectual property. It's only the rights which arise out of a certain creation, intellectual creation. If you are talking about patent rights, they arise only when it is registered. Maximum period of protection is 20 years. After that, it expires. Trademark registration may be made or may not be made. I will discuss. But if it is registered, it is protected for 10 years, but it can be renewed forever. For example, Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola was registered sometime in the 19th century. And you will find that it is still going strong. For centuries together, it has been kept in the private domain. Designs, registration is compulsory. I'll try to explain. 10 years plus, renewable by 5 years, maximum 15 years. Geographical indications. I'm very sure that Karnataka has a lot of geographical indications registered, including Dharwad, Peda and all, Mysore, silk, and even Bidri ware, etc. And the geographical indications of goods can be protected if registered for 10 years, and it can be renewed forever. Copyright, etc. I will not discuss. Now, about the industrial property also I try to discuss, because my focus should be on trademarks alone. Now, I'll come to the concept of trademarks. It is very simple. The students, I think, when you are sitting in a classroom of an esteemed educational institution like your SSMRV college, there are many similarities between the students, among the students, right? Maybe girl students, maybe, male students, whatever it is. But simply you can't divide them into boy students and girl students. Each one of them has a name. Why? Because, all of them are students only. All of them have similar features, if not, in every sense. All of them have two eyes, two ears, one nose, etc., etc. Then how to distinguish one student from other? Therefore, their parents gave them a name. The name is registered. So your faculty members and professors call you by your name. You are acknowledged, recognized as such. Apply the same, example to goods and services, which are traded in the markets today. When you go to, in the good old days, ask your parents and grandparents. When they went to a shop, nearer to their place, hardly there was one shop, and hardly there were few brands, few producers. So it was very easy for them to identify what really they wanted. This kind of situation changed drastically after the 19th century industrial revolution. As a result of industrial revolution, it so happened that the number of goods which flooded the market, the number of services which came to be offered has increased. The number has increased. Today, in the good old days, if anyone wanted to purchase some kind of slippers, everyone spoke about only Bata. Today, it's not like that. You go to any showroom, you will have Nike, you have Paragon, you have Adidas, you have whatnot, this and that. How to distinguish the shoes made by all these companies or slippers? Because you recognize them only by looking at their trademark. Is it not? Similarly, soaps. Every day we use any number of soaps. In the good old days, Lifebuoy or Lux, I think only 2 or 3 were very famous during even my childhood. Today, I think you have many more brands, many more companies, same company producing different kinds of soaps. Hindustan Lever, it produces any number of brands as far as the soaps are concerned with a different name. What I'm trying to tell you is that the availability or the supply of the goods, same goods or similar goods into the market by different sources, different companies, different individuals, different countries, they have changed the scenario. Today, you recognize them only by looking at their mark. So every company, every manufacturer, every trader will try to apply certain trademark to the goods which are traded, to the services which are traded. Look at your LIC, Life Insurance Corporation of India. Probably, for a very long time, it held monopoly in India as a service. Today, how many insurance companies are really, offering their services? Reliance is there, ING Vaishya is there, Tata EIG is there. Just you name it. Almost, there are health insurance, other kinds of insurance offered by different companies. Then how to distinguish? You look at some kind of mark. That is also a trademark. But if it is applied, it might become a service mark. If it is applied to a service, you call it service mark. So, what is a trademark? Trademark is nothing but a unique symbol, a unique word, maybe a label, etc., which represents a business or its products or its services. A unique symbol, word, etc., which represents either a product or a service. Okay. It may be in the form of a recognizable insignia. It may be in the form of a phrase. Onida TV, neighbor's envy, owner's pride. Now Onida has disappeared from the market. But those days, it was a fantastic slogan kind of thing. People easily used to remember. A little demon used to come and say, Onida, owner's pride, neighbor's envy kind of thing. Right? A phrase, a word, right? It's different. It could be a word, name. In fact, it can be a single word also. It can be a symbol, any kind of symbol. But they must specify, they must denote a specific product, a specific service. Okay. And it must be able to differentiate the particular goods or services from those of others. Simple logic. When you are purchasing Hammam soap, you look at Hammam logo. Then certainly it's different from Livell. It's different from Peers. As simple as that. Why? Because the names are different. The trade names used are different. The trademarks used are different. If they are similar, again, consumers are in a fix. That's a different issue. And trademarks play a very crucial role in the marketing strategy, and they are at the core of business competitiveness. The trademarks play a very important role. For example, if there is a Nike showroom for selling the shoes, I'm very sure that the local producers will suffer a lot if Nike products are available at affordable prices, because Nike brand's value is so high. People would like to go for branded goods nowadays. And Nike is a well-known brand. And every brand is a trademark, for your kind information. Every trademark is not a brand. Every brand is a trademark, because trademark, in order to become a brand, requires so many, processes, aggressive, intensive advertisement, marketing, so on and so forth. So when we are talking about the concept of trademarks, please try to understand that it is for the purpose of applying to the goods and services which are traded. It may be even in respect of future goods and services also. You want to start a business, do it tomorrow. You can register the trademark today. You can start using the trademark today in respect of the correspondence or whatever it is. That is one important aspect. So trademarks include trademarks which are typically called as such, and service marks also in respect of services. Then you can ask me, what is the use of trademark? I mentioned just now. It distinguishes the goods and services of one from those of others. Because I gave the example of Hammam, Livell, etc. Same can be spoken about Hyundai car and Kia cars or whatever it is. Everything, every product, the trademark applied to every product is different, right? Distinguishing the goods and services of one from those of others. Second point is, trademarks also assure a particular kind of standard, which may be a perceived standard. Sometimes it may be certified standard also. Trademark includes a certified mark. For example, you look at ISI mark on certain goods. That's a certification mark in the language of trademark law. If you are going for a silk, there is something called silk mark, AG mark for agricultural produce, gold mark, I think you have hall mark for gold. There are many other marks like that. Those are certification marks. Other than that also, when you purchase a Tata product, you always have something in your mind, is it not? Because Tata means it offers a particular quality. That's what they say. Bata, Tata, whatever it is. The well-known trademarks, they offer particular quality and assurance. That's second purpose. Third purpose is trademarks serve the purpose of advertisement. Just look at any of our cricket players who are playing T20. Yesterday also they played, it seems, third 2020 match with Australia. Look at the dresses of all those, or bats, gloves, everywhere there is some trademark because of sponsorship. Why? The sponsors, they want to advertise. their trademarks, their products, their goods. Fourth one is goodwill. A trademark protects the goodwill of that particular company. When T is written in a circle, certainly, it has certain goodwill in the market. And this goodwill cannot be taken away because it is hard earned goodwill because of long and continuous usage of such mark. Lastly, the fifth purpose is, you can call them the functional characteristics of trademarks. The fifth one is that consumer protection. Consumer is the king, in the words of Mahatma Gandhi. And the consumer, without consumer is God, not only king. Consumer is God. That's what Mahatma Gandhi said. But the consumer should not be put to any kind of confusion. He should be in a better position to exercise his choice. That's important. To exercise his choice, which product to be purchased, which service to be availed, so on and so forth. So all these factors influence. Trademarks also influence the, in fact, the choice of the consumer. These are the five. And trademark may be in any form, friends. For example, it may be a letter mark. Letter. IBM is a trademark. International Business Machines. GE is a trademark. General Electric. GM, General Motors, right? Or, there are any number of letter marks. LG, nobody knows Lucky Gold. LG is a trademark. It can be number mark. It can be, 999 for cigarettes or 10 for cigarettes, 501 for soap, something like that. It can be an alphanumeric. It can be some kind of, in fact, logo, brand, ticket, so on and so forth. It may be even combination of colors and lines also at times. Mark, only condition is that it must be capable of being represented graphically. If it is a trademark, you must be in a position to represent it graphically in a two-dimensional form, right? That is very important. That is the requirement as far as Indian law is concerned. We have this Trademarks Act of 1999, which takes care of it. And another good thing about the trademark is that, just think about, a small street vendor at the corner of our house. He may be very famous. His grandfather was also doing the same business. His father is doing the same business. He is also into the same business. He is using some trademark. Okay, Musadilal and Sons. That's a trademark as far as, let us say, jewelry is concerned. But he is, Mafat Lal and Sons. That was also for trade in textiles. But when you come across some trademark which is used, it is absolutely not necessary to register it. If you register, there are more advantages. Even if you don't register, still trademarks are protected. Unregistered trademarks are also protected, but there is a better protection for registered trademarks, right? This is one point. Remedies, for example, if such registered trademark is infringed, somebody is using it without any authorization, so on and so forth. In all such cases, you can say that they have a better protection if it is registered, but registration is not compulsory. Then internet domain names also, friends. Today, I think without internet we will die. Without food we can survive, but without internet we cannot. Just imagine a situation when internet is disconnected. All the family members will be in jitters, right? Simply, they'll be running helter-skelter. They'll be speaking to Act Fiber, some other fiber. No, it must be restored. But every internet has a domain name, is it not? So some .com, .biz, .ac, .in, whatever it is, .in. In all such cases, in order to have a domain name registration, trademark registration is a must. This point may be kept in mind. So if Rediff.com is to be registered as a domain name, first Rediff should be registered as a trademark. Same is the case with Yahoo, same is the case with Gmail, whatever. And today, in fact, trademarks have so much value, you can't even imagine. The value of certain trademarks runs into billions, not millions, billions of dollars, US dollars, right? So, for example, Apple Apple is the costliest brand in the world today. The value of Apple is the costliest, right? This is another important aspect. We don't know gem. Then one more important aspect. For example, you look at some of the well-known trademarks. Coca-Cola. Before Apple, it was the costliest brand. Then we have IBM, GE, Intel, Marlboro, Citi, Dell, Gap, UBS, just Gucci, I think it's pronounced as Gucci. So there are so many. We need not discuss much about it. Pirelli, Abba, Elf, Swatch, Halifax, all of them are well-known trademarks. They are well-known throughout the world, not necessarily in India alone. So they may be owned by individuals, they may be owned by companies, right? And they may be called collective marks. For example, Tata, it is trading in almost all the fields, right from an Alpine to aeroplane parts. So for everything, they will be using different marks. But the mark may be owned by a company in respect of various goods produced by it. Different marks can be owned, single mark can be owned. So this is one important aspect. You must remember this. Then another important point is that trademarks have acquired the international dimension way back in 1880s with the Paris Convention. So there was, because you see what happens is that trademarks, like any other intellectual property, right, they have a capability of being infringed by unknown persons, unauthorized persons. Normally, when you go to an industrial exhibition, in Hyderabad, we have an exhibition called Numaish. Right from Nizam's days, it has been conducted. Every December, this industrial exhibition is, organized to attract the new, the traders with their new products, new services, so on and so forth. Similar things were done even in the 19th century. Sometime in 1870s, there was an industrial exhibition conducted in Vienna, Austria, and it was found that the representation from other countries was very low. At that time, the king was there and he was perturbed, saying that, why so many people, such less number of participants took part. Then he found that they are not happy with the way the intellectual property is protected. Because whatever they were trying to exhibit, it was stolen. The knowledge was stolen or copied in their respective countries, and there was no remedy for them. Then started the internationalization of the intellectual property protection. This is important, and that is how some international conventions came to be signed, right from 1883, from Paris Convention to recent conventions like we have something called Singapore Treaty on the Law of Trademarks 2006. Any number of conventions. I know that you are not students of law, but normally the countries try to regulate their conduct with regard to protection of intellectual property rights by way of various treaties and conventions. These are the conventions, but we are more concerned about the TRIPS agreement because that is a level playing field. It provides a level playing field. TRIPS is a turning point in the field of intellectual property protection. The purpose is to have some kind of level playing field in the international trade. This is one. And Britishers also tried to protect trademarks in India, but where was the trade? Probably there was only British trade, and our people never thought that intellectual property is something which can be traded. It is free. That was our psyche or our ideology. Okay, this is one. 1940 was the first law in India. Then came 1958, another law. Then came, after the TRIPS agreement, you have a new law. If you want to know about the trademarks in India, just refer to the Trademarks Act of 1999. You will know what is a mark, what is a trademark, what is a service mark, so on and so forth, right? And there they say, what is a mark? Just now I mentioned, it is something which is capable of being represented graphically. Some people also say, suppose Your mother, my mother might say that I can cook a wonderful dish, right? And the smell of the dish is so scintillating, so attractive. Now the question is whether this smell can be registered as a trademark, because we want to open a big open kitchen, right? By investing 2 to 3 crores elsewhere. Now, we want to commercialize this. Can we do that? Can we register the smell mark? That is one issue. Can we register the sound mark? Can we register the taste mark? Probably it is not possible in many jurisdictions, including India. Process has commenced, but it has not materialized. Why? Because mark is something which should be capable of being represented graphically. How do you represent smell graphically? In a two-dimensional form? Scent, smell, taste, sound, so on and so forth. But these are called non-conventional marks, which are trying to gain, maybe, within the next few years, things will change. This is one. Then, as I already said, trademarks should distinguish the goods and services of one from those of others. Tata must be distinguished from Bata. As simple as that. Then, another point is that normally trademarks are not supposed to describe the quality of the goods and services for which they are applied. For example, there is a soap, and the washing soap, let us say, washing soap is supposed to, in fact, clean the clothes. And normally in Indian sense, we think that, you must wash them very white. Even if it is black color, we'll say white. White means clean for us. Can white be registered as a trademark for washing powder? Answer is no. Just look at the market. Mr. White is there. White is not there. Because the manufacturers of this washing powder, they fully knew that white cannot be registered. Therefore, they put Mr. Mr. White is something different. Okay. So whatever it is, and there can be some kind of non-descriptive nature of the, in fact, the goods and services, which should not be applied as a mark. Descriptive marks are not registered. Please try to understand that. This is one. Then they should not be functional also. Have you come across any vehicle which is named as fast? Vehicles are supposed to drive faster only. Because if one is given the trademark, others also will say, give me trademark fast. So fast, faster, fastest. After that, where will you go? Super fast. Right? That will be descriptive. That will be functional. Then it should not be deceptive. Deceptive trademarks are not registered. What is deceptive mark? Deceptive mark means when you put the two things side by side, two goods or two services, and the two marks which are applied, they look like the same to a common man. The common man may think that it's one and same. That's a problem, which will have deceptive similarity. They should not be deceptive. And they should not be contrary to public order and morality. No trademark can be against public order, right? We should not, instigate any kind of violence or cause any kind of offense, etc. Similarly, it should not be against the morality. That is very important. What is morality is a relative expression, but there are certain standards of morality. It should not be, against that, right? And what I am trying to tell you is that what I am trying to mention is that as far as these conditions are concerned, they will be taken into account by the registrar of trademarks, either for registering the trademarks or refusing to register the trademark. This is one important aspect. Then I need not mention much about the Trademarks Act of 1999. And what I must discuss about the trademarks is that, for example, let me give a few examples as far as this trademarks are concerned. Shopper Stop, Delhi High Court gave a judgment. Shopper Stop is a very well-known brand. You know that. You will find it in Bangalore and in many metropolitan cities. In Delhi, somebody started using Vinod Shopper Stop. He thought that, shopper is a common word. Shop also is a common word. I will add my surname to that. So Vinod Shopper Stop. But Shopper Stop people filed a case against them, ultimately got an injunction stating that the common man may think that they are visiting our Shopper Stop, not Vinod Shopper Stop, because there is some kind of deceptive similarity. This is one aspect. Similarly, in one particular case, in 1967, one trademark was already registered called Suryan. Suryan. Fine. The rival company trading in the same similar goods registered Sun as a trademark, wanted to use Sun as a trademark. What's the difference between Surya and Sun? One and same. Maybe one is in Indian language, the other is in English. But meaning is one and same. People will get confused. Maybe the logo was also similar. Surya looks alike wherever he is depicted. Similarly, Kodak, for instance. Kodak is very famous for cameras, you know that. Then somebody was using Kodak for cycles. The argument is that Kodak company is not producing cycles. It's not trading in cycles. Therefore, there is no confusion. There is no conflict of interest. But the court held that Kodak is a well-known trademark. The common man who knows about Kodak cameras will think that it is the same industry, the same company which is producing cycles also. So that cannot be permitted to be used. Similarly, take the case of, Glucovita. Advertisement comes every time. So when you come at Glucovita, Glucovita is something, in fact, which is produced by Shangri-La Food Products Limited. The other one is another, name by, Gluvita. Glucovita versus Gluvita. Glucovita is the first registered trademark, well known, but the other person trading in similar, glucose powder, he said, it is Gluvita. The court said nothing doing. Gluvita will not be permitted to be used. Similarly, Yahoo, with regard to domain names, we have yahoo.com. You are aware of it? Somebody wanted to register yahooindia.com. See, yahoo.com and yahooindia.com. In one particular case, in 1999, Delhi High Court said yahooindia.com will not be permitted because it is deceptively similar. It cannot enter into the field where the domain names are, accessed by the internet users. There is a likelihood of confusion. This is another decided case. I'll give you another very interesting case. Whirlpool, you know very well. Whirlpool. I think most of you must be using Whirlpool products in your homes. Whirlpool is an international brand, and in India they used to sell their refrigerators, etc., only in Delhi, especially in the the institutional area and where all these ambassadors and consuls offices were situated. Somehow they failed to renew their registration in India. Normally, as I already said previously, every 7 years it was supposed to be renewed. Today, every 10 years we are supposed to renew. But this was not done. Taking advantage of the non-renewal, Usha Sriram Industries wanted to take benefit out of this non-registration. They started applying Whirlpool trademark to their own products. Their argument is this: Whirlpool has not renewed their registration of trademark. Therefore, it has come into public domain. Therefore, anybody can make use of them. But the matter went up to Supreme Court. Supreme Court said trademark will be protected whether it is registered or unregistered. Okay, if it is unregistered, you have something called passing of action. That means what? The Usha Sriram Industries is trying to pass off its own goods as if they are made by Whirlpool, but Whirlpool has a certain reputation. Whether it is registered or not, or whether its registration has lapsed or renewed, that's a different issue. So ultimately, there was a direction against Usha Sriram Industries not to use Whirlpool. This was in 1996, friends. So we have number of such cases. I'm just giving these examples to understand the concept better. For example, in the pharmaceutical industry, we have any number of chains, big multinational corporations. For example, Glenmark is one of them. Mylan is one of them. Pfizer is one of them. So Glenmark was using a trademark called Dexorange. You know that Dexorange is a kind of liquid, right? And the other company, a small pharmaceutical company in India called Bal Pharma Limited, they were using Coro range, Dexo range, Coro range. But range is common to both, is it not? So ultimately, it was declared that Dexo range is the only one thing that can be used. Coro range cannot be permitted to be used. Depends on the facts and circumstance of each case, friends. For example, Raymond's. Oh, the advertisement was like Raymond's, the complete man, something like that. But that is in the context of textiles. Whether Raymond's can be used for, in fact, pharmaceuticals, that is the question. But in one case, which was decided recently in 2017, the court held, the Bombay High Court held that, in fact, Raymond Pharmaceuticals can be permitted to use the word Raymond because there is no connection between the earlier, textile registration and this one because they are in different classes of goods and different goods themselves. This is one important aspect. Now I'll come to, last few minutes, how the trademarks help in commerce and industry. That's a point. Trademarks normally refer to brands, as I already mentioned, because nowadays everybody wants branded goods and branded services. So trademark becomes a brand with sustainable efforts. Second thing is trademark is a very effective communication tool without any language barriers. So just, you look at Nike logo, whether it is in Chinese, Telugu, Hindi, English, whatever it is, the logo remains the same. Whether they speak English or not, still, the logo is effectively communicated. Third one is trademarks help the customers to make their choice. That's important. If there is a wonderful, good trademark, right? The moment you have a look at the trademark, you feel that, it's really impressive. That will help increase the market as far as the trader is concerned and help the consumer as far as his choice is concerned. Then that means, normally trademarks also try to prevent marketplace confusion. That's quite possible. And an unscrupulous trader always says that, no, dono ek hi hai. Both of them are same. They're produced by the same company. You can go for it. He may try to push spurious goods, adulterated products, fake products with false representation of trademarks and all. In such cases, a trademark will help the consumer which certainly prevents the marketplace confusion. Then again, trademarks also help us to utilize the internet and social media very effective. Just, I think all of us are netizens today, not only citizens. They're also netizens. Without browsing net, we can't sleep. Question is, when we are browsing, you come across any number of advertisements. Don't you think so? Even if you are playing Candy Crush, right? When you are moving from one level to other level, normally, you are given more chances, more attempts if you view an advertisement. Once you see an advertisement, you will find trademark. That's another important point. And as I already said, trademarks are valuable assets of the company. In Hyderabad, there used to be Charminar cigarette, long time back. Wazir Sultan Tobacco Company used to produce that, VST Industries. And when they wanted a loan, they obtained nearly 200 crores rupees loan from ICICI Bank by pledging their trademark with ICICI, trademark Charminar cigarette. It's an asset. Just now I mentioned that Apple is the costliest brand in the world today. And you will be surprised, maybe pleasantly, to know that more than 50% of the total value of the assets of Apple company are in the form of just one trademark, that is Apple. You can imagine, right? Apple is such a valuable trademark that It comprises more than 50% of the total assets value of the company. It's a valuable asset. That's very important because of the goodwill it has created throughout. Then another important point, uh, trademarks can make hiring easier. Suppose you see, you're all students of commerce, law, whatever it is. Tomorrow the placements are made. Some people come because of the wonderful reputation of your SSMRV degree college and their alumni and all. They say, okay, we want to hire the young students from this with the commerce background, BCom honors, this and that. Fine. Suppose Nike company comes, or Apple comes, or some well-known company comes, and some other not so well-known company without any trademark comes. Which company will you join? I think certainly you will join that company which has a better brand value, is it not? So it is useful for both. You will get to join the better company, and they will get the better talent. It is possible through trademarks. Okay, hiring becomes easier. Then trademarks are not compulsorily registrable. So therefore, that is also one of the advantages. One can start using even without registration. Second thing is one can start using even before the actual trading starts, actual production starts. You can occupy the field that way. Then a trademark can change the life of a corporate as well as an individual. Like an idea can change your life, a trademark can change the corporate or individual, because especially in the case of international commercial transactions, like bidding for certain big projects, right, or supply contracts, in all these, or hiring contracts, hiring of services, trademarks play an important role. So another last point is trademarks are very effective as far as this unfair competition is concerned. They can, in fact, discourage, they can overcome unfair competition, because by virtue of registration, by virtue of continuous use, trademarks can help the business to grow. Now I will come to designs in just one or two few minutes. Trademarks, I think it's clear. If trademarks are infringed, if unauthorized persons, unauthorized companies are making use of these trademarks, there can be orders like cease and desist. Then there can be orders like, cease and destroy, or the labels, logos, etc. There can be orders like a permanent injunction, so they can be stopped. The others may be stopped from using it, right? To the courts, the intellectual property appellate board, all of them will be really concerned about it. Infosys was a big issue for your kind information. Infosys is a combination of information and system. So they created a kind of invented word. It became Infosys. The intellectual property appellate board on an application filed by somebody said Infosys should not use it. Mr. Narayana Murthy and co should not use it, because it is nothing, which is really distinctive. Hallmark of any trademark is that it must be distinctive. But ultimately, the order of Intellectual Property Appellate Board Chennai was stayed by the Supreme Court. Today, Narayana Murthy and co are using Infosys because of its own reputation. That's a different issue. Okay. Now I'll come to the very small component, last component, namely the designs, industrial designs. What are industrial designs? Because you see, when we purchase goods, when we purchase articles in the market, when we trade, their appearance becomes a very important issue. The way, their shape, their configuration, their combination of lines or colors, their pattern, all of them are the features in any article which appeal to our eye. You are purchasing a new car, you are going for BMW, you are going for Benz, you are going for something else. Something in that car must appeal to your eye, is it not? So, any feature like the shape, the pattern, the configuration, combination of lines, a combination of colors, etc., which represent aesthetic value of an article, which makes an article really effective. They are called design. As simple as that. I'm trying to define what is design, industrial design. Because nowadays people don't give much value to endurability. Very few of them, prefer durability and endurability. Many of them, prefer the design, the color, so on and so forth. So the designs which are applied to articles only, please try to understand. I'm not talking about architectural designs. I'm talking about articles and goods to which these features are applied. They are called designs. First point, these designs make any product visually appealing and very attractive also. And these features must be registered. Unlike the trademarks where registration is optional, in industrial designs, they must be registered, and when they are registered, they will be protected for 15 years, 10 plus 5, 15 years, maximum 15 years. Originally for 10 years, then it can go beyond by 5 more years, 10 plus 5, 15 years. This is important. After that, it lapses. Public memory is very short. Today's design, which is in lot of demand, may not be the same tomorrow. Tomorrow it might be altogether, completely ignored. That's another one. Okay. Then, for example, the owner of a registered design or proprietor of a registered design will have certain exclusive rights, but the most important right is something called copyrighting design. He's the only one who can apply the design to those, in fact, goods for which the design is applied. There are different kinds of goods. For example, trademarks can be applied to 45 different classes. That is 31 classes of goods and 14 classes of services. That is under an international classification. Here also there are nearly 30 plus classes of goods to which designs can be applied, including textile design, furniture, car, automobile, whatnot, even food, right? Even Little Heart biscuit, you must have seen, no? The shape of the Little Heart biscuit was registered for your kind information by Britannia Industries, because the children probably they may not only like the taste, they may also like the appearance, right? This is another one. And unauthorized copying of any design or taking any of the important features or integers, colorable imitation of the design, fraudulent imitation of the design, all of them are prohibited under a law called Designs Act 2000. Original act was 1911, but in 2000, after TRIPS agreement, this law came into force. Take the case of a cell phone. The cell phone size, shape, color, and overall look, all of them are relatable to industrial design. Is it not? So whether it is Apple, whether Samsung, or whatever it is. So this is about the designs. They must be protected, and once protected, they are protected, registered, they are protected for 10 years. But if the proprietor so wants, it can be extended by 5 more years. So you can apply them to the chair, you can apply them to the textiles, you can apply them to the bottles, you can apply them to the shoes, jewelry, whatnot, right? This is one important aspect. But it is better to register the designs so that others don't copy. At the same time, if the design is something immoral, indecent, or which is likely to hurt the religious sentiments of any people, any section of the people, such designs cannot be permitted to be registered. Okay. Now I have the good fortune of looking at some of the participants. Their features are most of them are very attentive. Some of them are getting bored. It looks like. Anyway, I'm also done with the presentation. I'll stop here. Now it is over to the organizers for any Q&A session or any clarification. Over to you, sir, Dr. Gokul and the others. I'm asking for interaction, sir. any of the participants who would like to share their views, ask their questions, because it should not be a one-way traffic. I'm sure that there are a number of doubts. Yes,
Sir, sir, sorry to interrupt. There is a question, sir, from Mr. Satish. He says, sir, can you give me any example or a case where there was an issue relating to design?
there are any number of cases pertaining to designs, including the bottle. Hello, Industries was one of the cases. There was a case involving even the neck of the Sanifresh bottle. Sanifresh. There was a case between Colgate and Sibaka, industries regarding the shape of a particular toothbrush, and there was a case relating to glucose biscuits produced by Amber Industries and Ambro Industries in Hyderabad. There are any number of such cases, sir. Yes.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon. I'm Soumya, working as associate professor.
Okay.
So my question is, all MSME can go with trademarks? Means all MSME can claim the trademarks for their business or for their work?
Yes.
Can they, sir? Because MSME, IPR will come under the accounting standards, and in the balance sheet, of course, it has a major impact. But as based on my research, what I felt means MSME are denying that one. They are not awareing about the intellectual property right. But after agriculture, MSME sector is only a sector which giving a lot of contribution to economy, where they are lagging towards sustainability. In this regard, at least a trademark can be a boon to the MSME for sustainability.
Yes, I totally agree with you. There is no legal bar on registration of trademarks or service marks by any of the MSMEs and medium and small enterprises and all, for the simple reason that there are different kinds of marks, ma'am. For example, there are certain marks called collective marks. Collective marks may be the marks which are owned by any association of persons, not being a partnership firm, unless it is a partnership firm. If it is a partnership firm, it will not be a collective mark, because belonging to that particular group of people. Because partnership can be dissolved at any point of time. But otherwise, any company, small, medium, or big, MSME, SME, whatever it is, certainly can register the trademark. There is no legal bar on that.
Okay. So that will lead to their sustainability, sir, in future days?
Certainly, because once their products become more popular, once
Okay.
their business increases, their rivals also will be trying to do something. They may try to
Okay.
use marks which are similar. Recently, we have seen, of course, it's not relating to SMEs, but we have seen a notice relating to Vijaya Diagnostic Center in Hyderabad. It's a very big center, and they issued a public notice saying that someone else, or in fact, a small company is using almost a similar logo in respect of their diagnostic centers, and they are also called Vijaya Diagnostic Center.
Okay.
So now same is the case. For example, in Hyderabad there was a case between Swagat Grand and Grand Swagat.
Okay.
In fact, Swagat Grand is the first registered trademark in respect of hotel.
Okay.
Then others, they wanted to go for Grand Swagat. Ultimately, the matter was resolved in favor of Swagat Grand, and now, in fact, the others are using another name now. It's something called Kinara, something like that. So it happens, ma'am. Only thing is consciousness among the stakeholders must be increased. That's
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because I'm doing my research on this only, impact of IPR on MSME. So in this regard, I come across that most of the MSMEs, even though their entrepreneurs are having education in top-notch business school also, they are not having a lot of interest. They are not showing a lot of interest towards the registration of IPR. So that's why I asked you whether it leads to sustainability or what. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Your answer is very appealing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else with some more questions, please?
And let me share a very interesting incident. KL is one of the well-known shops, a cloth chain in Hyderabad. So KLM Shopping Mall, KLM. They wanted to register it. In fact, they were almost on the verge of getting registration. And then they came across a very old shop in the same city, the name of which was also KLM. And he was the prior registrant. And he was also having the GST registration, etc. So then this man, with the advice of his counsel, ultimately he said, I will oppose the registration of KLM for the big chain. Then there was an out-of-court settlement whereby this man was given 25 lakh rupees across the table for not opposing the grant of KLM. KLM means keep loving more. So whether we are really loving them more or not, but this gentleman was richer by 25 lakhs just because he was the prior registrant and he had a legal right to oppose this KLM. What I am trying to tell you is that this is the case. This is the case, with regard to many of the, trademarks. So thank you all. Okay, how can an unregistered trademark be protected? Yeah, good question. Good question, sir. Unregistered trademark, how can it be protected? Can I go on? Now, an unregistered trademark can be protected by way of, in fact, passing of action. If anyone really tries to use this unregistered trademark, for example, if he or she wants to, make use of an unregistered trademark in respect of the goods which are unrelated to the original person. For example, A, he has been using a trademark. He doesn't know whether it is compulsorily registrable or otherwise, but he has been using it for a very long time. Then B wants to use A's trademark for his goods. So he wants to pass off his goods as if they are made by A or vice versa. In such a case, A can take civil action. Only civil action. We call it passing of action. He can ask for an injunction against the other person, third party. He can ask for even damages, share in the profits, so on and so forth. So that is how it is done. But other remedies are not available. They are not available before the Register of Trademark or Intellectual Property Board, etc., which are exclusively available only to registered trademark owners.
Good afternoon, Mr. Reddy.
Yeah, good afternoon,
Professor Reddy, sir. This is Harish here, advocate from Bangalore. I am
Yes,
also
sir.
a guest faculty in the RV group of institutions, SSM RV College, I teach Constitution and Human Rights here.
Good afternoon.
Sir, okay, I have listened to your discourse even at the NMKRV Legal Institute of Studies when Anjana Reddy had arranged your thing on the IPR also.
Thank you.
Okay. I have one query. Is
Yes, sir.
how do you protect? First of all, is whether publicity rights are to do publicity rights fall under the purview of IPR? One. Second, in case of a conflict between a personality right and a publicity rights, how do you protect the personality rights and right to privacy under the IPR?
Very good question. I think the questioner advocate Saab knows the answer, but he wants the audience to know. Fine. Anyway, the question is this: as far as publicity is concerned, publicity is nothing but advertisement. You know that, and in fact, right to advertise is part of the commercial speech today, and the commercial speech is part of Article 19(1)(a) of the Tata Cellular case. Supreme Court also clearly overruled Hamdard Dawakana case of 1970s. That is one aspect. Therefore, any person who is registering any intellectual property, whatever may be the form of intellectual property, like whether it is a patent, trademark, whatever it is, certainly they can tell the world at large that yes, this is the intellectual property which is owned by us and in which we are trading and all. So that advertisement is not taken away. You know that very well. But the other one is the personality rights or celebrity rights, probably in most of the cases. The celebrity rights are purely personal there. Unless the person himself waives those rights, they cannot be used. For example, Amitabh Bachchan's baritone voice was used to promote a Gutka product. Immediately he sent a legal notice saying that even the person who is appearing in the advertisement is like me. It's not me. Similarly, the voice was also my voice's imitation. You must stop. So there, again, the right of reputation comes. If not privacy, the reputation comes. Therefore, the celebrity rights are now they're recognized, being more recognized more and more, even under the IP regime also. And take for instance, sir, this Nairobi Treaty on protection of Olympic logo. That particular treaty, 1981, says that, in fact, no person can make use of any of those 5 rings in the logo of Olympics, and without permission of the International Olympic Association. Why? Because ultimately, it has certain reputation over there. These are developing, sir, but you are very right. Publicity rights are guaranteed, but not at the cost of the celebrity rights or personality rights or right to privacy. Right to privacy certainly, is more significant, and it takes precedence over the advertisement there. Unless it is waived, because you know that under section 9 and 11, when we deal with the absolute grounds and relative grounds for refusal to register the trademark, the names of the persons who are living or recently dead cannot be used unless they themselves waive, in fact, their privilege as far as the trademark is concerned. Section 9 and section 11 are very clear. They are also, in fact, substantiating our answer. I hope I am clear, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So there's one more question from another participant. What are the remedies available to redress IP infringement?
Good. Very good question. In fact, these remedies are under different statutes. Patents Act recognizes certain remedies through civil, criminal, and even administrative remedies. For example, civil remedies could be a suit for injunction, a suit for declaration, a suit for damages, and so on and so forth. Similar remedies are available in respect of copyright. In copyright, in fact, we have certain extra rights also. Yesterday, Dr. Srinivaslu must have explained, like Anton Pillar order, some kind of, attachment before judgment kind of thing. So, without notice, the complainant, with the help of the police or court officer, can inspect any place and seize the goods which are infringed and make them over to the court. That is Anton Pillar order in India. Maybe similar to Order 38 and all. Whatever it is, of the CPC I am talking about. But the civil remedies include injunction orders, declaration orders, damages, so on and so forth. Cease and desist. This is one particular order. Even Competition Commission of India also gives that. Stop and don't proceed further. Then seize and destroy. For example, any false trade logos or trademarks, etc., are found, they are destroyed. For example, liquor bottles to which the false trademarks are applied, all of them are destroyed. Same is the case with the pirated software, CDs, etc. Bulldozers are used to destroy them. Civil remedies are available. Criminal remedies are under the respective statutes. For example, Copyright Act, if anyone is using any operating system without any license, then minimum 7 years is the imprisonment everyone must face. If you look at section 60 plus, you will find under the Copyright Act. So there are and heavy fines also, 2 lakhs, 5 lakhs, etc. Then as far as the trademarks are concerned, we have the similar ones, but in respect of registered trademarks, this is the case. In respect of unregistered trademarks, we follow a remedy called tortious remedy, that is a civil remedy in case of unregistered trademarks. There also you can claim only civil remedies. The other statutory remedies are not available. Statutory remedies may be before the registrar of trademarks at the time of registration. Then after that, they may be before Intellectual Property Appellate Board. It's a quasi-judicial body. So that will be taken care of. If it is infringement, again we will go to the civil court, minimum district court. If it is any criminal action, it can be even judicial magistrate of first class onwards, depending on the nature of action. So there are whole set of remedies, sir. And that is where I think our lawyers must strive and enlighten our stakeholders. Hope I'm clear. No, penalized in the sense everything depends on the facts and circumstance of each case. For example, every time there may not be any penalty. Penalty is only in the case of criminal offences, where criminal offences are recognized. Damages in the case of civil wrongs. If any loss is caused, that must be made up. But it's not necessary that every case should attract the criminal penalty, the penal consequences. Depends. For example, there is something called honest and concurrent use. Somebody is using a mark in Kashmir in respect of certain goods. Somebody in Kanyakumari is using the same thing in respect of the same goods, but they are using it honestly and concurrently without any knowledge. In such cases, the trademark registration was also allowed, subject to certain conditions, by delineating their jurisdiction, etc.
So there's one more question. If food taste and contents are same with different trademarks, is it okay?
In fact, you see, people today, as of now, the taste is not registered as a trademark. Smell is not registered as a trademark. Therefore, if there is a pizza, Domino, KFC, AS Bakers, Karachi Bakers, whatever it is, they can sell their own pizza. The contents may vary. Contents may be similar also, but certainly everything need not be exactly the same. As simple as that. So they can sell. That's what they're doing, is it not? For example, Halim. It is a registered geographical indication in Hyderabad, and it is registered in India. In Hyderabad, we have Halim manufactured by Paradise Hotel, Halim manufactured by Sarvi Hotel, Halim manufactured by Shah House. So there are people, who prefer. Taste may be a little different, contents may be one and same. That is their own, maybe trade secret sometimes. They need not even divulge what exactly are the contents. Anything else, sir?
Participants, any more questions? Participants, do you guys have any more questions? Sir, no more questions, sir.
Fine. Then I think it's
Yes, sir. Sir, thank you so much for an insightful talk on trademark and design. It was very informative indeed. We find the whole area of your expertise truly fascinating, sir. Thank you so much for enlightening us. Now I request Hari sir, senior advocate and faculty, SSMRV College, to deliver the closing remark. Hari sir, over to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, one and all. Thank you, Ajay. It's my proud privilege to make closing comments on the two-day national first virtual webinar on IPR law, in which we had the opportunity to listen to two eloquent speakers, Professor Srinivaslu and Professor G.V. Reddy, who are well known for their command over the subject on IPR law. We had the opportunity to have in our midst even the principal of SSMRV College, though he is not keeping well after having undergone a surgery. He made it to the inaugural session. Sorry, I think he couldn't make it today. Otherwise, he would have been delighted to see Professor G.V. Reddy's discourse also. He is just convalescing himself after a bypass surgery. So we wish him a speedy recovery, and we would see that he comes back in action again in his routine daily work of the administrative mechanism of this SSMRV College. As regards the IPR workshop, as very well said by Srinivaslu in his first day discourse, where he said that earlier only IPR was to be studied by the law students and the law fraternity alone. But today, the order of the day is that it is essential that every field of commercial activity is also aware of how the IPR law works in the commercial field. Today, you have Commercial Courts Act. You have so many such judicial activism which is taking place in order to see that every gamut of law is covered and all the issues are redressed by the judiciary also, as well as the economic scenario in the present day circumstances. Due to economic slowdown, we have seen a lot of setback in all the business modules in this country and also globally also. So it is essential that every field of activity is covered under the IPR law. And as well, in the inaugural address, Dr. Ponnu Mudiraj, the advisor to the NAC, was well updated with the position of the current day scenario, because he quoted the yesterday's newspaper article in Deccan Herald Panorama, which covered the issue of a waiver of IPR for COVID vaccine on this planet Earth. See, this is what we look at students, we look at all people in various walks of field to update yourself. If you don't update yourself on these subjects or on any subject in this, as far as the society is concerned, you will be an outdated product. You will be an expired product. You need to update. Every day we are students of learning, every day in whatever field we are. Similarly, IPR is the need of the hour. You have seen in Srinivaslu in his presentation said that we need to see that there is he told you the limitations on the copyright law and also the limitation on the other parts of the IPR law. You need to keep in mind before you think of registering the mark. Otherwise, you may have to look at the prior user rights when you use these trademarks and going for all these things. Also, as far as Professor Reddy's today's discourse, he took us down on various illustrations from Nike to Bata to Onida, which was one of the famous ads of those days, as he well said. owner's pride and it is a neighbor's envy. That was a very famous ad of Onida. Onida is no more today. Whirlpool was one of those manufacturers who also went into litigation, and passing off was there, and that particular thing also as far as Whirlpool product washing machine was concerned, when somebody else started using that Whirlpool name in India after Whirlpool had closed down globally and its operations in India. You need to people in the commerce line should know that they are looking at entrepreneurship. They are looking at MSMEs. We saw Soumya ask question on MSME. One of the assistant professors, he asked a question on MSMEs and trademark related questions yesterday. Also, she spoke and raised issues on these things. It is essential for each one of us in every field or any field for that matter, that we should acquaint ourselves as to how the various facets of the IPR law. You have the Design Act, you have the Patent Act, the Copyright Act. The Reddy sir is very well versed with the plant and variety and the GI and things like, because I've heard him on the biodiversity and other related topics on the IPR. Today you have pharmaceuticals also, which are gaining momentum in the IPR. You have nutraceutical. We talk about nutrients, healthcare nutrient products like Herbalife. All these nutrient products are also treated as part of the nutraceutical. We call it pharmaceutical on one side, nutraceutical on the other side. I think in any stream we should look at IPR as a very good option to see that you safeguard your rights, individual rights, your proprietary rights, your personality rights, your right to privacy, right to publicity, right to your design, as well said, well quoted by Professor Reddy regarding what our Prime Minister had said, that you innovate it, you need to innovate, produce, and protect also your innovations and creativity also. Yesterday we also mentioned, I raised the issue on tattoos. Earlier used to have this Pachi Battu or in South India and Gondla in North India, which is engraved on their arms and on their back. Like, who claims the copyright for this? Because they have been existing long back also. So I think it's a very vast ocean which still lies before us undiscovered, because you need to go deep into it to understand the intricacies and to see what is to be protected, what can be registered, what can't be registered, and how unregistered trademark, just now Reddy sir mentioned on it, how unregistered users get a right of prior use, and licensing agreements also happen in the field of IPR, which is gaining momentum. I think it was a good overview of all the facets of the IPR law, with more focus on design, trademark, copyright, and patent. And we are highly grateful to them. We are also grateful to Professor Anjana Reddy, with whom in a discussion we said we should contact Professor Reddy sir and Professor Srinivaslu, who are the right persons to throw light on this and enlighten the younger generation and the stream of commerce, stream of students and faculty, and all those who were interested and who took part in this webinar. It was delighted to have all participants, without whom this particular webinar would not have been a grand success. I thank you all for your active participation. I thank the organizers. I thank Dr. Anil Kumar personally, Professor Nagaraj, Dinesh sir, Satish sir, Gokul, Shalini madam, Rupata madam, and Ajay, and all those hands which have gone behind this exercise of putting up this 2-day national webinar. Thank you one and all. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Harish sir. Now I request Dr. M.S. Nagaraj sir, Head of Department of Commerce and IQAC Coordinator, to propose the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, all. After listening to the two stalwarts, Professor G.B. Reddy and the senior advocate, a very good friend of all of us in SSMRV College, Mr. Harish, I have nothing more to say. And he has made my job more simpler because he has already thanked all of us who was the part of the organizing committee. But just to formalize to bring in a formal closure to this particular 2-day webinar, I have a big list of people to thank. So please bear with me for at least 2 to 3 minutes. So I would not be speaking anything on IPR, that is for sure. I think you have got a good dose of information in the last 2 days. So I'm really happy as a coordinator of this particular program. Thank you for all those who had joined hands and made this particular program a grand success. It was really an eventful couple of days. We, SSMRV College, had associated with the National Assessment and Accreditation Council, NAC. Now, this is, as you all know, as all the faculties know, is one of the body which accredit college, and our college being ranked as A grade in our third cycle. So we thought of associating with them. Now, this shows when the NAC is associating and our college associating with NAC, this shows the quality of the program, and the quality, the testimony for all this is the participation of all the delegates. So it was excellent. Thing is that the question, the flood of questions that is being raised by the participants, the way in which the resource person were answering, these are all the testimony to the quality of the program. I think the NAC will endorse this particular occasion as one of a very eventful program in association with the NAC. And we have one of the NAC, the person, Dr. Panmudi Raj, who is the NAC advisor. So he was the yesterday's chief guest. He helped us a lot in associating with the NAC. So a big thanks for him for being a part of our program and being a chief guest. Resource person, I think I have nothing more to say. I think everything has been told and deliberated. Dr. Srinivasulu and Dr. G.P. Reddy, thank you very much for being a part of us. We request you to associate with us in all our future endeavors, because it is not one of its kind. We have quite a few new programs which has been lined up. We request you, all of you, especially the resource people, please be with us, help us, guide us in our programs which are pertaining to IPR. And very respectfully, the overwhelming response that we have got from all the participants, there were certain apprehensions about the participation because it was in the morning, but we had a very good participation. We had quite a number of registration. Of course, maybe the proportion of people who could not join. Anyway, we have recorded all these things and we have been putting in our YouTube. So please do watch the program sessions that have been conducted. Then I would like to thank, most important is we are a degree college. We are in Bangalore, we are a degree college, and ours is not a domain of the IPR. So we are not specialized in it. So we need to depend upon people who know, who are well versed in this. And the top of the mind, we got two people. One is Professor Anjana Reddy, who is the principal of the Law College, RV Law College. And another one is the ever-dependent, our advocate, Harish. So these were the two people who we had to define, because it is their domain. So their support and their cooperation made this successful. And when we asked them to sort of handhold us in order to conduct this particular program, they suggested these resource people, and I thank both of them to kind of suggested us to be you as instrumental for these two people to be the chief guest. And then have our principal management and the principal, the magnanimous management, who say always yes for all the activities that we conduct, and also our principal. I think we have been discussing this. So he is a bit not well due to his surgery, and we'll pray that he would recover fast and he will come back to his as usual routines. So thanks for the management and the principal for guiding us. And of course, a big cheers to all my team members. So there's a big list of team members who has been associated with organizing this particular event. Dr. Shalini, Gokul, Satish, Salma, Ajay, Rupalata, Shobha. There are quite a few people, and if I have missed anybody, please excuse me. So they all are the people who associated with us in order to conduct this. So thanks to all of them, because it was a clinical execution of the plans that we had prepared. And of course, who knew that this would be a webinar? Because we had requested the MAC for this particular sort of IPR program as an offline. Now, it was a long time that we had given a proposal, but it's just, who knew 1 year before that this would be a program of online. Now the importance of the technicians, especially the computer technicians, relevance is known. So we have a ever supporting two technicians, our Hanumant Reddy as well as the Raviraj. Thanks for them. And I should also thank our student who prepared the brochure. Thank you all. I have few more people to say thanks, but one few things that I have to tell all the participants is, we have many more programs lined up. We request you to please join us for all programs. We'll be sending you the links. Second thing is, with regard to the feedback, we will be sending you the feedback link to you in the WhatsApp group. So please do fill up the feedback, and we have a time till 3:30. We will be allowing you to respond. Post 3:30, we would be blocking the feedback. And once we consolidate the 2 days attendance, and we will be issuing the e-certificate. Just give us 3 days time. We will be sending you the e-certificate to your respective email IDs. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you all for being a part of this, a very eventful program. So hope we all meet in all our future programs. Thank you. Thank you all.
On behalf of everyone present here, we would like to thank our Head of Department and Coordinator IQAC, Dr. Nagaraj sir, the captain for this event. Thank you very much, sir, for your unconditional support. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day, all of you. Jai Hind.